All right, so today we're diving into something truly fascinating. A fictional novel that's a real enigma. It was published after the author died, and honestly, it's less of a straightforward story and more of an intricate puzzle box. So let's go ahead and pry it open, see what we find inside. Right from the very beginning, the book's anonymous compilers hit you with this line. It's in the foreword. So right off the bat, they're telling you, hey, don't expect a regular novel. This is supposed to be something else entirely, like a communication from the other side. It just sets this wonderfully strange and mysterious tone. And really, this is the core question we're going to unpack. The book is asking us to imagine that a story, that fiction, could be more than just words on a page. What if it could actually be a mechanism, a doorway to somewhere else? So, let's get into it. The book itself claims to have no authentic provenance. It's just presented to us as this final work from a brilliant but totally unnamed author. You kind of have to think of it as a riddle, where the main character isn't a person but consciousness itself. Okay, so our story begins with V. This is our author. He's a celebrated writer, a man with a massive intellect who is now stuck in a hospital room, facing the end. But he's not sentimental about it. Nope, he's looking at death with the same sharp analytical mind that he's used his entire life. This quote, it tells you everything you need to know about V. The doctor is trying to be gentle, using soft language, and Vivi just cuts right through it. He's a man who values precision more than anything, even when he's staring his own mortality right in the face. So, Vivi isn't just lying there waiting. He has a final task. He's grappling with this unfinished manuscript, a book that has started to become terrifyingly, uncannily intertwined with his own final days. And he's facing this huge dilemma. See, his last novel is all about the idea that our consciousness is basically just a performance. He's so full of doubt about it that he's actually told his wife, Vera, to just burn the whole thing. But she's begging him to finish it, so the fate of his last great work is just hanging in the balance. Now, right before he got sick, Vivi gets this strange letter from an old acquaintance, a researcher named Madame N. In it, she tells him not to destroy his manuscript, and she introduces this really important idea, this concept of an aperture as an opening for truth. You're going to want to remember that word. It is the key to everything. Okay, now we're going to peel back a layer. We're going inside the story that Vivi himself is writing, and in there, we meet another man who is basically a reflection of Vivi, and he is also confronting some kind of impossible threshold. Vivi creates this character Dorian as a sort of inverted mirror image of himself. It's fascinating. Vivi, who collects butterflies and is obsessed with memory, is stuck in a sterile hospital. His character, Dorian, who's an expert on beetles and is drowning in grief, is in this lush, wild garden. It's like they're two sides of the same coin, each facing a completely different kind of void. And this is the moment. This is where the inner story just completely pivots. Dorian's wandering around this weird garden at his aunt's house, and he finds a door. A hidden white door with a silver handle that's been covered up for decades. It's an entrance to, well, something else. This brings us to the philosophical heart of the whole book. This is where the story of V, the story of Dorian, and this deep dive into the nature of reality all start to click together around one single idea. And that term is aperture. So in this novel, an aperture isn't just, a hole in a camera. It's the lens of the self. It's the point where this vast universal consciousness gets focused down into a single person, like you or me. But it's also a point through which we can peek back out and glimpse that bigger reality. And this is where things get really weird. Okay, so first, Madame N sends him that letter about apertures. Then, in the hospital, VV has this incredibly vivid dream about a white door. Then he goes back to read his own manuscript, and he realizes, probably with a huge shock, that he's already written that exact same door for his character, Dorian. Life and art aren't just imitating each other anymore, they're literally bleeding into one another. So, just as Vivi is trying to wrap his head around all this, a final, super cryptic telegram shows up. Turns out, Madame N has died, and she left one last message for him. It's this: tell him the door opens both ways. What on earth does that mean? All right, in this final section, everything just comes to a head. For Vivi, finishing his novel is no longer just about his artistic legacy. It's become his own personal journey through that final door. So, in the climax, VV pushes himself to write the end. He describes his character, Dorian, opening that white door and stepping into a long corridor lined with windows. But as he's writing the words, VV suddenly finds that he is in that same corridor. The act of creation becomes the experience itself. Author and character, they just merge. And what they find there is just profound. The windows in this corridor, they're not just memories playing back. They're apertures. They're openings into a reality where time doesn't work the way we think it does. The past, the present, the future, it's all there, all at once, coexisting. And he can see all of it. At the very end of this corridor, there's a box. And Vivi's final, incredible insight, what he writes for Dorian as he himself experiences it, is that the box doesn't contain an object or a memory. It contains consciousness itself, the source code of all experience, the ground of all being. And we come right back to this mysterious line. The door opens both ways. If that's true, what does that say about the line between the real-world author and the character in the story? Or, the line between life and death itself? This is it, the ultimate question. After seeing that all of reality, all of time, comes from one single unified consciousness, what's the final reveal? What is the fundamental nature of that consciousness? The answer, in the novel's absolutely stunning conclusion, is love. Not romantic love, but love as the fundamental force of existence, the structural principle that holds the entire universe together. It's the reason there is something instead of nothing. And here's the novel's last beautiful, mind-bending twist. The final realization that both the author and the character have is that the narrative they were part of, the story itself, was the mechanism of transformation. It wasn't just about a door. The story was the door. Which, of course, leaves us with one last lingering thought to chew on. If the story is the door, by experiencing it, by engaging with these ideas, have we, as the readers, just stepped through it too? It's a fascinating question, isn't it?